Hey guys, it is 2 o'clock on Monday. I just want to say thank you again for working with me in terms of what's been going on. This thing's frozen. Can you hear me? Sorry, this thing's being weird. I'm going to do my best here to keep this under 10 minutes and just go over with you guys the true and false activity here that I gave you on Monday related to the domestic policy making article that I asked you guys to do. If you're watching this video, I'm not here on Tuesday. I apologize. I'm doing my best, and I'm hoping that Nat and Brian talks to you guys about different kinds of politics, and you'll have something that looks like this with the other handout that I gave you on Tuesday that talks about how not all politics are the same, and that some politics are designed to make sure that those who are benefiting from a decision are not always paying for the decision. And hopefully a lot of the other examples that we have reflect that, and you can get some work there. But I do want to go over this true and false with you quick, because in order to have the basis for what you need for the projects, we need this domestic policy making article notes to come through here. So number one of day one, true and false. Policy can be regarded as reflecting who gets what, when, and how in a society. That is absolutely true. Policy is going to be all over your AP exam, and basically all policy is just the idea of getting stuff done. How do you take all of the pieces that we've talked about? We talked about the president and Congress and the bureaucracy and the judiciary and political parties and all these other linkage institutions. The idea of policy is, it's the whole point of government, to make policy. The Republicans want to win so they can make their policy different than the Democrats want to make their policy. So the idea of policy, don't overcomplicate it. It's simple. It's about figuring out who's in power to make decisions. Number two, policy entrepreneurs are always congressmen or members of the executive branch. That is false. The idea of a policy entrepreneur is it's anybody who is involved in the process. If you guys remember our issue network web craziness of all of the different aspects and angles of people, from interest groups to universities to think tanks to nonprofit organizations to state and local governments to different branches of government, you're talking constantly about the different people that are going to get involved in setting what we call as the national agenda. And the national agenda is simply the stuff that the nation is talking about. And according to your article here, this isn't on any of the true and false, but the article talks about different ways you get things on the national agenda. There's some kind of crisis like 9/11. 9/11 happens, and all of a sudden we need to fix terrorism, or we need to keep our country safer. The gradual accumulation of knowledge, something like global warming. 30 years ago, we didn't take it seriously. Today, there's a fight to take it more seriously because we know some of the effects from it. Problems that can no longer be avoided or ignored. Maybe something like Social Security. Like, hey, in 20 years from now, Social Security is no longer going to be paying for itself. How do we fix that? Or Obamacare, or something of that sort that, people no longer want to ignore it. And the fourth one is the political process. That idea where, depending on who's in power, they're going to care more about certain things. Republicans are scaling back on regulations and regulatory policies, which is your day two focus, whereas Democrats were more about implanting regulations to try to protect people and hold businesses or government entities more accountable. Number three, Congress invests at least half their time in committees on long-term issues. False, 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 false. Congressmen are focused on short-term issues because they want to get reelected. We've talked about this before. Congressmen will often punt on the long-term stuff to focus on the short-term stuff that's going to help them get things done. Number four, policy windows are usually finite time frames and last on average about 60 to 90 days. Also false, not because there's not a semblance of truth to that. A policy window, according to your notes, are an opportunity presented by circumstances and attitudes to enact a policy, partly because there's a certain time period where people care about stuff. Maybe there was a major event with violence and people are going to try to push through some kind of weapons situation right now. Maybe the congressional term is ending and there's a time and an opportunity to move something now. Sometimes windows present themselves. And sometimes before the window presents itself, there's this incubation phase where people have to work for the window. But at the end of the day, there's usually not a finite number of days. Sometimes it's 60 to 90 days. Sometimes it's 20 days. Sometimes it's 3 months. It really depends on, the different circumstances of what's going on. Number five, absolutely true. Hearings and debates in subcommittees are often designed to fine-tune bills and to cultivate support for a policy. The hearings and subcommittees are where interest groups are going to come in, experts are going to come in. That's where the issue network is really working, where we're going to hear more about what what is being presented, what wants to be passed, and those committees and subcommittees are really going to be where a lot of that work is being done. Number 6, executive agencies are often looked upon as the experts in their field. True, that was a big part of your bureaucracy test, that a lot of times we give the discretionary authority to these agencies because they are good at something and they're better than the average congressman, so we're going to give them the power and the opportunity to do so. So that was your day one notes there, where we were really just trying to set up the 4 stages of policymaking: setting the agenda, formulating the policy, meaning actually creating the policy, adopting the policy, getting the policy passed. You're talking about working through Congress and then the president ultimately signing it, and then implementing the policy. And the implementation part is where you're going to bring in the bureaucracy, and you're going to talk about the execution stage of taking that bill or law or resolution or whatever it is and making it law and making it something that's actually carried out and cared about as we move forward. Day 2 now talks about the 3 different kinds of policies we have. And this is where we start to get into the things that are going to transition now into your projects and your presentations, and what Brian and Nat are going to hopefully talk about when it comes to those projects. No pressure, guys. First one, distributive politics focus on giving resources exclusively to a group who have been marginalized in society. False. Distributive politics, according to this definition, government actions that convey tangible benefits to private individuals. So if you're distributing something, you're giving somebody something. And the most popular form of politics are when somebody gets something. Somebody gets a tax break, which is something that Trump did right after he became president. He gave certain people tax breaks, including wealthy and middle class. Life is good, right? So you're giving tax breaks to somebody. You're helping somebody in some way, shape, or form. It's very popular. It's fun. You're distributing wealth. You're distributing things. Number 2, forming coalitions are key in order to function as a political system. Duh. True. Absolutely. You need to bring people around you that are along the same lines as you to form the coalitions and get the support that you need to focus on that. Number 3, distributive politics work best when the economy is expanding and growing. Absolutely true. When the economy is expanding, you have more funds, you have more money coming in, and you're able to use that money to spend it on more people and give people more stuff. Where things start to get unpopular is when the economy is not expanding and somebody needs something. Let's say your economy is not expanding, or your family household needs to spend more money on an electric bill, but you're not making any more money. Your standard of living did not go up. Your income did not go up. Now the question is, well, what are you going to be taking away from to pay for your electric bill? What kind of fun money are you taking away from? Are we going to get rid of the 4th car? Or are we going to not go to the movies this week? Or what are we going to do to account for that? Starts to get into from the distributive part to the redistributive part, which is number 5 and 6. But let's do regulatory first. Number 4, regulatory policies are often implemented by the judicial and legislative branches. False. Regulatory policies have to deal with regulations, which are going to come from the executive branch. Once Congress passes a bill, president signs it, it now becomes something that an agency or a bureaucratic department is going to take advantage of and execute. So these regulatory policies, once again, are often not all that fun because somebody's telling you that this is what you have to do. You now have to cut carbon emissions. You have to wear a seatbelt when you drive. You cannot do these things. And this is where the media and interest groups and political parties are either going to come out in favor of these regulatory policies or against them. And this is where the narrative and the linkage institution comes in regards to that. And then last but not least, number 5 and 6, redistributive policies have historically been difficult and controversial because they focus on reacting to national crisis and political debates. False. Redistributive policies has historically been difficult and controversial because you're redistributing wealth. Number 6, redistributive politics have been known to separate the haves from the have-nots. True. Think about what you're doing with redistributive politics. Donald Trump wants to spend more money to build a border wall, but our economy is not expanding as fast as he wants. What does he have to do? If Mexico's not going to pay for the wall, he's got to take from one and give to another. Usually agencies that aren't seen as vital, like NASA or something else, get picked on here. The National Endowment of the Arts and some of the other agencies that you guys focused on. This is where they're going to lose funding because the military is the most important. The military needs more money. We have to take from one and give to another. And this is where things start to get very unpopular. Nat or Brian, one of you guys are talking about client politics. Think about what client politics is. You're taking from one group and you're giving it to another. Very few people are gaining from something and everybody is benefiting from something. That's a better way to say it. I just screwed that up from 12 seconds ago. But at the same time, I think you guys are bright enough because you're awesome kids to see the discrepancy here and how difficult this can be in terms of separating those haves from the have-nots. And if you're a politician, as much power as you have, you are going to get benefits from giving and distributing power or wealth or policies, but you're also going to get probably some negative feedback or kickback because you're also saying no to a lot of people, whether it's an interest group, a citizen, a political party, a political action committee, and that's where you're going to get yourself in some hot water. Thank you guys. That was 10 minutes of going over the article. Now what I need you to do today and the rest of the week, whether I'm here or not, is to go over the different individual projects that you guys have to highlight the different examples of policies that you guys can do. I have up on the board over there some names of people that can go on certain days. I just ask that you work with the substitute to be as workable as you guys can be the awesome kids that I know you are. And once again, I'm really sorry if I'm not able to be in class as much as I'd like to be. Peace. Love you guys.